Hey guys, before the video starts, I'd just like to update you guys on why videos have been coming out slowly this past month since my previous video, Where Has Mote Been? For those of you that follow me on Twitter and keep up to date with what's going on in my personal life, you probably already know that my brother has been in the intensive care unit in the hospital since the beginning of July. He was supposed to have 2 hernias removed through surgery at the beginning of this month. However, due to his low immune system affected by his Down syndrome, as well as prior medical complications that he unfortunately has, his body has reacted to the surgeries very badly. My brother is now in the ICU with 2 collapsed lungs, congestive heart failure, kidney failure, and his CO2 levels have skyrocketed. There's also been too much fluid inside the upper parts of his lungs, which means doctors can't even reinflate the bottom parts of his lungs that are collapsed. He's in very critical condition, and I also have been very sick and very busy with family matters since the end of June until now. For those of you who have and most likely will leave very nice messages about this, I really thank you, as does my entire family. My mother has had to take a month off of work just to stay up there at the hospital with him, and she's been reading all of the nice comments that you've all left on my Twitter, and it has definitely been making this trying time on my family much easier, so thank you guys. Today, I finally got a facts video done that I was going to upload a month ago, and I really do hope you guys enjoy it. I'm a bit rusty and out of practice when it comes to making videos in general anymore, but hopefully you guys find it enjoyable. And as I said, I've been sick for the past month as well, but don't worry, my voice doesn't sound like this for the rest of the video. I recorded my voice on this video around a month ago, so I actually sound normal throughout the rest of the video instead of this raspy, sick voice that I have right now. But yeah, that's it. Have a good day or night wherever you're at in the world, and once again, enjoy the video, guys. Number 10. Tim and Crunchy. For a long time after RuneScape 2 was released, these 2 guys were the face of RuneScape. Crunchy the Skeleton and Tim the Warrior were the main characters for a lot of old RuneScape wallpapers back in the day, but perhaps what they were most famous for were holding the high and low detail signs that used to be presented as an option to you before you would choose which world you wanted to play in. Basically, all these options did was decide whether or not you wanted ground decoration to be visible or unloaded. Before they held the high and low detail signs, these guys were actually their predecessors, but unfortunately were never given names. If you've watched a lot of my facts videos, you'll know that I've often mentioned these 2 guys quite a bit, and today I found something else out about them that was quite interesting. They do exist within RuneScape. They exist in RuneScape 3, and they did exist briefly within Old School RuneScape. Each year in Old School RuneScape, Jagex hosts a birthday party event for the game. Within the Falador Party Room during the 2017 and as well as this year's 2018 Old School RuneScape birthday event, if you're a true veteran of the game, you may have noticed Tim and Crunchy present at the party room in Falador, as well as the area they're standing in being a recreation of the famous nostalgic backdrop for the old Skeleton and Warrior wallpaper that so many players will remember seeing from their childhoods. They have even included the iconic RuneScape fire braziers and secret passageway scene that everyone loves and knows from the Old School RuneScape login background. I don't know about you guys, but I truly did enjoy this birthday event. Number 9. On October 18th, 2002, 16 years ago, a preview was leaked by Andrew Gower on what RuneScape 2's graphics would look like. The first thing you'll probably notice was that yes, RuneScape 2 was originally supposed to have a sky, more specifically, a sky box around the world, meaning that the draw distance where you would usually see a black background before the world loads into today's RuneScape would be drastically increased with no black background. If you look beyond this building, you can clearly see that the trees are rendered even though they're quite far away. Jagex probably did away with this simply to save on data usage, as it was normal during these times during the early 2000s to only receive about 15 to 20 frames per second even when playing RuneScape Classic. Today, if the skybox and draw distance features were what they originally planned to be, obviously more modern machines could run those settings today, but back then during this year of 2002, smooth gameplay would have been highly unlikely with these features. Another thing you might find interesting is that if you take a look around the room of this building, you'll see some RuneScape Classic related objects. For example, take a look at this bookshelf. This isn't a RuneScape 2 style bookshelf. It was actually copied over from RuneScape Classic and put into this beta-like stage RuneScape 2 world that was being planned. Little to no information is known about the years leading up to the production of RuneScape 2 when Jagex started working on it during 2002, and as far as I know, these are the only two remaining screenshots previewing what RuneScape 2 was going to look like 2 years before the game version itself was released in 2004. There also were some screenshots of what NPCs were going to look like as well. A lot has changed since these times, but also a lot has stayed the same. Number 8. So, for almost all players, one of the first quests you probably ever did in RuneScape after exploring Lumbridge for a little bit might have been the Cook's Assistant quest. What some of you may not have ever known though, was that the cook within Lumbridge Castle that you helped during this quest was in fact not the originally hired cook in Lumbridge Castle. After obtaining RuneScape membership, if you made your way to West Ardoin and happened to go north a little bit to the house that contains all sorts of servants that you can hire in your player-owned house, some of them will tell you about their previous professions around RuneScape. When you speak to the lady cook, she will tell you that she used to be the cook for the old Duke of Lumbridge before Duke Horacio took over the castle. After Duke Horacio took over, she says that she was fired from the kitchen overnight and was replaced by some fool who can't even bake a cake without help. Obviously referring to the current cook that you help find cake ingredients for within the Cook Assistance quest. I never knew about this until someone pointed it out to me, and enjoying RuneScape lore like I do, I thought this was quite a nice, nostalgic, simple, and subtle reminder of my old days as a noob. Number 7. On the 9th of August in 2004, the troll-infested town of Burthorpe was released into RuneScape 2, and along with it, a number of quests were also released that required a special pair of boots to complete. Those boots were called climbing boots. From 2004 until 2010, there were only one type of climbing boots. After completing the Death Plateau quest, you could purchase a pair of them for 12 coins each from an NPC named Freda in Western Burthorpe. On June 24, 2010, Jagex released an update that changed all prior possessions of normal climbing boots into rock climbing boots. In a span of 30 days after this update, rock climbing boots saw an increase in value of 35,277.3%. It was somehow leaked that these boots were going to skyrocket in price before the initial update, so players took to buying these boots from Freda for 12 coins each in bulk overnight. The boots rose from around 200 coins to 1,400 coins each in a single 24-hour period just before the June 24th update, and after the update had been released, the rock climbing boots' new price was set at 75,000 coins each, making it one of the most inflated items in the history of RuneScape. Billionaires were literally created overnight because of this, and numerous riots took place on World 66 in Falador immediately after the update. Today, nobody is really upset about this anymore. Now, if you type in climbing boots on the Grand Exchange within old school RuneScape, you will see two pairs of boots with a nice little Easter egg referring to this game-changing update that took place 8 years ago. The first item is the legitimate climbing boots, and then you'll see another pair called rock climbing boots that doesn't exist yet in old school RuneScape. They're priced at around 80,000 coins each, and if you try to buy them, it will simply tell you that you cannot trade this item on the Grand Exchange. And if you check out its examine information, it even says these boots were made for trolling. Good one, Jagex. Number 6. A PAFT. A PAFT stands for Personal Area Force Teleport. I have talked about this bug in other videos, but only briefly. A PAFT could most easily be described as a form of teleporting your player into personal areas or what is called instances, such as a player-owned house, a random event area, the fight caves, quest areas in which cutscenes would take place, or areas for just general cutscenes like the Wise Old Man cutscene where he robs Drainer Bank. I won't get too detailed into just exactly how you could have manipulated this bug, but you basically would have needed assistant accounts as well as a specific kind of client to run the game. This bug had been around since the early stages of RuneScape 2 and was rather difficult for Jagex to patch at one point in time, but they eventually did patch it sometime in 2015, and today you can no longer manipulate or abuse this bug. Most instances and areas that you could paft into didn't give much of an advantage in-game, but there were some areas that did. For example, within this footage here, you're looking at a replicated area of East Ardoin that was used within a quest cutscene. You're not even supposed to be able to see this side of the city within the cutscene itself, which is why half of the city just doesn't exist. One of the advantages of being here though was that you didn't really need any specific thieving level to steal from the item stalls, and there were no guards or other NPCs to stop you from stealing from them either. Another interesting area that you could path into was the wise old man's cutscene in which he robs Drainer Bank. If you happen to be banking at the time he begins robbing the bank, your bank pin menu would close and you'd receive a message in your chat box that simply says, "Cancelled." You could also even pick up the blue party hat dropped by Elfinlocks within the cutscene. The wise old man would still attempt to telegrab it even if there were no longer a party hat on the ground. However, the blue party hat wasn't a real blue party hat. The hat from the cutscene itself had a different item ID than the real one, as well as even a slightly different inventory model appearance. If you examined it, it would tell you, please send a bug report to Jagex telling them how you got that hat. And if you attempted to wear it, it would simply just disappear from your inventory altogether. This was a pretty epic bug that not many players knew about for a long time, and it was discovered by a small group of players that kept it secret for a long time before eventually leaking it. It is very much against the rules of RuneScape to abuse, but it is extremely entertaining to watch if you've ever enjoyed cutscenes in RuneScape and always wish that you could somehow become a part of them or just explore their areas and mechanics. Number 5. Back when RuneScape Classic's magic skill was split into two categories, being good magic and evil magic, you could find from various monsters what was called a life rune. These runes were going to be a counterpart to the death rune, and also were originally going to be used within necromancy, or what we know today to be summoning, but it was never actually released into the finished version of RSC. If you examine the life rune, all it would say is used for summon spells. Today in RuneScape 3, you can take part in a quest that's called the Gower Quest that was released in celebration of RuneScape's 15-year anniversary. During the quest, you'll obtain an actual life rune, and you'll also come across a life altar, but you can't runecraft life runes from it. The examine text of the life rune itself says, the legendary rune appears to be true, but how did it end up here? The life rune is just one of the many items that were originally planned to be a part of RuneScape's legacy, but never quite made the cut. Number 4. Going back even earlier than old school RuneScape's set year of 2007, the majority of the monsters' model appearances were quite different. There originally were no fade-out deaths, but instead the monsters themselves would just fall over and simply disappear. Here's what old skeletons look like: goblins, dragons, spiders, zombies, demons, giant rats, cows, and there were many, many more that were eventually changed as well at the end of the year 2006. Something interesting that a lot of players may have overlooked though is that there is still one skeleton in OSRS that still has the old 2006 skeleton NPC model. It's the skeleton that guards the altar in the Wizard's Tower that you steal a skull from during the Restless Ghost quest. Number 3. Your RuneScape player is actually a little bit of a womanizer, if you're a male of course. And if you're a female, you're a little bit of a let's not go there. Anyway, how so? Well, during a number of quests, you end up marrying people and flirting with people. During the Evil Bob random event, you can confess your love to a slave. During the Miscellanea quest, you have to marry either a prince or a princess, depending on your gender. And during the Biohazard quest, right after you receive the plague sample, you'll have the option of telling the NPC Elena that you find it hard to say goodbye to her, in which she will respond with the fact that she has feelings for you too. To further this idea of romance with Elena, you can also have a picture of her on your wall within your player-owned house. When it comes to RuneScape, we really are all just players. Number 2. Have you ever wondered just what is inside of those chests downstairs within the Varrock West Bank behind that locked gate? This has driven myself, and I'm sure a lot of players, crazy with curiosity over the years. And now we finally have an answer thanks to Mod Ronin. Inside the chest you will find max cash. All of you who suspected this were right all along. This makes me wonder, just what else are the banks of RuneScape hiding behind their booths? Now, all you glitchers and hackers out there can spend your time trying to figure out just how to no-clip through this gate to receive the goods. Good luck, everybody. Number 1. Necromancy and summoning is actually still referenced within old school RuneScape. If you speak to Malignius Mortifer, south of Falador, he will tell you about his disciples, and then about himself. He says that he is a master of a branch of magic that few dare to attempt, necromancy. This is a reference to the part of the magic skill that was never released during RuneScape Classic, but if you continue the dialogue, you'll eventually have the option to ask Malignius, is this like summoning, in which he will respond, the obscure magical art of necromancy has nothing to do with summoning, and he then continues to say that perhaps one day we humans will learn to summon creatures at our sides. Old school RuneScape is set in the 2007 version of RuneScape, 1 year before summoning would have been released within the 2008 version of RuneScape. I assume that this conversation you can have with Malignius Mortifer was placed into RuneScape 2 a year before summoning was released, not by accident, but on purpose, to allude to the fact that the skill itself would eventually exist. For me, personally, 1 more year added to OSRS would have been enough for me to have never even restarted my nostalgic journey, as summoning, in my opinion, was never a part of what I reminisce about to be what I consider the good old days of RuneScape. This little reference to summoning that I found within OSRS makes me truly grateful and appreciative that Jagex chose 2007 over 2008, because that 1 year difference truly did make just that, a huge difference for a lot of players. Thanks for watching, guys.